Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Mahaprabhu Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Welcome to our Thursday morning Bhagavad Gita class. Preeti, Radhika, Mataji, Suyash Prabhu, and Shraddha-devi Dasi. And Hare Krishna. And yeah,
Mataji, Hare Krishna Mataji. I will join after 2-3 minutes, Mataji. somebody just
Fine.
came up with.
That's fine. That's fine. You can join whenever you like to join. You don't have to come and then leave and then come. You don't
No,
have to
I'll
do
just.
come at your own convenience. No problem at all. And
Mataji.
then we are also joined today is a lucky day. We are also joined by Achyuta Radhe Mataji on the phone as well as Dilip Bhai Patel. Awesome. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So how are you all feeling today after the Narsingham Chaturdasi yesterday?
Really good.
Feeling good? Okay, all the anarthas removed?
Praying for it.
Okay. So so you have a reading order, US Prabhu? Suyash Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji. Priti Radhika Mataji, Suyash, Varshana Mataji, and then Shraddha Mataji.
Okay, so we have a short one right now. And then, of course, Vidyavadu Mataji is joining us on the Facebook. And those of you who are watching on Facebook, you can always share your reflections and questions by typing on Facebook. There's a little bit of a delay of 3-4 minutes, but I do get them. If not, then I get them after the class. Okay, so tell us, Suyash Prabhu, what should we do now?
Vigati Panchaka Mataji, I'm ready to share.
Are you ready to share? Then let's take your copy today. All right. Very
Kept it
good.
ready last night itself.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Matsamo nasti papatma naparadhi cha kaschana parihare pilajjame kim pruve purushottama. Yuvatinam yatha yuni yunam cha yuvatau yatha manobhi ramate tadvan mano me ramatam tvai bhumau skalita padanam bhumirevavalambanam tvai jata paradhanam tvameva sharanam prabhu. Govinda Vallabhe Radhe Prarthaye Tvamaham Sada Twadiyam iti janatu Govindo Mam Tvaya Saha Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamritavahini Kripaya Nija Padabcha Dasyam Mayam Pradiyatam. All right, now for the translations.
Oh Purushottama, excuse me. No sinner or offender is as bad as I am. How can I describe my shame? Just as the mind of young ladies take pleasure in young men, and the minds of young men take pleasure in a young woman, kindly let my mind take pleasure in you alone.
Just as the ground is the only support for those whose feet have slipped, you alone are the only shelter for those who have offended you.
Oh, Srimati Radharani, beloved of Lord Govinda, this is my request. May you and Lord Govinda consider me one of your assistants.
O Srimati Radharani, O Queen of Vrindavan, you are a river flowing with the nectar of mercy. Please be kind to me and give me a little service at your lotus feet.
All right. So now it's time for reflections. So what words stuck your mind? And Achyuta Radhe Mataji is saying that she's also feeling very nice and blissful in the mornings. It's good to be surrounded by nice and blissful devotees. Okay, so words that stuck your mind. Now that Suyash Prabhu has removed this document. Okay.
No sinner or offender as I am.
Okay, good. That's a good way to start and to a good mood to be in. Humility. Okay.
And Bhumo Skalita Padanam Bhumir Eva Lam
Okay, good, good. Okay, you
Trying my
got most
best.
of it.
Yeah.
Avalambanam. Avalam.
Yeah. So it's just so sweet. I just can't get over it. Like you know, when it was Gopal Bhatta Goswami wrote this, and he was like, he connected the two dots. Like when a person is falling, there is no other shelter. Only the floor or the bhumi will save him. So yeah, just the beauty of that.
Yeah, and isn't that funny that I stand on the earth and then when I fall again the earth is there for me.
Yes, yeah. Just
Which is
acknowledge it, not abandon it.
exactly, and it's such a sweet mood also, to be in, almost like how we become adults in life, and then there are responsibilities, and so many times you think that I wish I was a child again, and I wish my parents were there to take care of all the problems in our life. When
That
I
would
was
have
growing
been
up,
the
I did
best
not
thing.
even know that. When I was growing up, I did not even know that from where the food came on the dining table. I think my family members were very graceful and very nice to me, especially with Devi Dasi, who would help the mom with the cooking and all that, so that I could just concentrate on my studies. I used to do mathematics, so if I was concentrating on a math problem, and I would not leave it till I solved it, which meant that they would even call me to come to the dining table to eat, and I would not go there till I solved it. But when I go to the dining table, I'll just start eating without even wondering who brought the food from the kitchen, who put it in my plate, and things like that. So, and then of course, after I got married and I had to do all the things myself. So then sometimes you feel that I wish I could become a child again. And so this one that you pointed out is almost like a childish helplessness, and like I'm being held. So it's always good to know that after we become the so-called adults and try to manage our life and then fail miserably at it, that there is Krishna. There is
Yeah.
Krishna to hold us, like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, and Manome Ramatam Tvai is what Vidyavadu Mataji is saying. Yeah. Okay. So are we ready to go to the next phase?
Yes,
Yes or yes?
Yes, yes.
yes, Mataji.
I gave you two options. All right, let's go. Beginning to share the screen here coming up. And can you repeat the reading order one more time, Siyash Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji. Um,
Did you post it?
Radhika Mataji, Suyash, Varshana Mataji, Shraddha Mataji.
Okay, let's go. Let's get going.
So I think I read last. Yeah, I read last, so it'll be Suyash Prabhu.
Observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words.
Varshana Mataji.
Uh, O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad. Here in this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhim and Arjun. Great fighters like Yuyudhan, Virat, and Drupad. Hare Krishna.
There are also great heroic powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashi Raja, Purujit, Kunti Bhoja, and Shabya. There are the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamaja, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters.
But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are specially qualified to lead my military force. There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bhurishrava, who are always victorious in battle.
There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and all are experienced in military science. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited.
Text 11. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of army. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandseer of Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like a roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. Hare Krishna.
After that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells.
Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya, Arjun blew his, the Devadatta, and being the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pondra. King Yudhishthir, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya, and Nakul and Sahadev blew the Sughosha and Mani Pushpaka. That great archer, the king of Kashi, the great fighter Shikhandi, Drishtadyumna, Virat, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupad, the sons of Draupadi, and others, O kings such as the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells.
The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. All that time, Arjuna, all that time, Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra drawn in military army, Arjuna then spoke to Lord Krishna these words.
Varshana
No,
Mataji.
you're mute, Mataji.
Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Hare Krishna.
Sanjaya said, O descendant of Bharata, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here.
There Arjun could see, within the midst of the armies of both parties, his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his fathers-in-law and well-wishers. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus.
Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning.
I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only cause of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of Keshi demon. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness.
O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will be derived from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors.
Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune, and how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen?
O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion.
When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the woman of the family becomes polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performance for offering them food and water are entirely stopped.
Text 42. By the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are demonstrated. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell.
Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield.
Sanjay said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down in the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we have done our morning ritual of chapter a day of Bhagavad Gita. So we collectively, as a team, read chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So what were some of the words that stuck your mind from this reading?
Yes, Madhuri, in text 25, when Lord says to Arjuna, just behold the path, because he is his aunt's son, so he is with love and affection, he is telling him that now see this, and at the same time, he is pointing out that all these are assembled here, now behold, and I mean, look at them. So both are, contradicting statements, but in one statement he said two things. First with love, and then he is telling him, now you can see all are there.
So where is the contradiction?
Contradiction is Madhuri, and on one side he is very loving and caring, and other side he is telling him, I mean, a little sarcasm is there, that all the Kurus are assembled here, now see them. I mean, this is what I felt.
What about that it is still love, but it is tough love?
Yes, you can say that.
Tough love also,
I
right?
agree
So
with
sometimes, yeah, people who love you the most might
Yes.
come across as very strong and not let you do things and point out your mistakes and things like that. But
Exactly,
there's tough
exactly,
love.
Madhuri.
Yeah, like
Yes,
you,
Madhuri,
like it.
this happens. My son keeps on pointing out, you see, many a times, Mama, this is not like this. No, this not this way. But do it this way. So I mean, initially I used to get irritated, but later I said, no, he's pointing out so that I may learn faster.
Yeah.
So I really learned with the children.
There you go. You should teach them also once in a while. All right. Any other thoughts? And welcome, Vinu Koli Mataji. Thanks for joining the call on Facebook.
Whenever just behold Partha comes, it brings in my mind something like, "Oh, मेरे प्यारे भाई, देख कौन आया है."
I agree with you.
Yeah. You know what? There was a joy also. There was a joy in, like whenever there's a knock on the door and then you don't know who's behind it. And so you open But nowadays, like we live in secure communities, so people are, they will call you, and so we'll know before they can even enter your apartment complexes. You will know who's coming, and then also now there are cameras, right? Which makes it very difficult for me to do the book distribution, because earlier, people didn't have those cameras that could see from outside who's standing outside. So I would just go knock, and I would see somebody peeping from inside the peephole to see who are there. So as soon as I would see an eye in that hole, then I would start waving. And people like, if you're waving, you see a human being outside, harmless. So they would open the door. But nowadays they're like, oh, they see that on the TV and it's like, oh, person with books. Okay, let's not even bother, going there. Yeah. So yes, yeah. Kaun aaya, who's there? Like that. Yeah.
Mataji, once I went to distribute the book in the college, and one boy really, took so much of time from me. And finally, you see, he took the book and he said, I only have 65 rupees. I said, okay, you take it. Yeah, okay, give me your address. If I don't like it, I will send it back to you. I said, it is better you give it to somebody else if you don't like it. But you will spend more money than 65 rupees for sending it to me back. Basically. So some people are really don't want to. They really trouble you.
There you go. So, and then also there's a comment there on Facebook, which I'm going to pick up right now. And it was from Vidyavadhu, I guess. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Does it happen?
Yes, it happens.
Right? And people do it without any remorse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome, Rohit Prabhu. So glad to have you on the call. And I'm waiting for the link to the recording. And then Gina Mataji, thank you so much for joining. So is your friend Varshana Rinku from the East Atlanta. She's there. And Divyangi Mataji is offering her respects to all of us here. Okay. Any other thoughts from that start? And of course, we have Garima Mataji and Suruchi Mataji here. Suruchi, are you able to read today? And Garima? Can you just tell us, text us, tell us, whatever? Garima?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I can't read. Thank you.
Can't or can? I didn't get that.
I cannot read. Sorry.
Cannot. Okay, yeah, cannot is a better word, Okay. Yeah. Garima?
Yeah, Mataji, he will speak in between.
Speak. If you are only listening and not speaking, you have to pay a fee. Okay, so what's the verse for today, and who's going to read next?
36.
Thank you. And who's reading?
Preeti Radhika Mataji just read one.
Preeti Radhika, okay, then you go and read this.
Okay.
And I'm just going to remove the bookmark. You can read it. Okay.
Are you going to share the screen?
Oh, I'm not sharing the screen?
No.
Okay, sorry about that. I thought I was sharing.
No worries.
Okay, here we go. Coming up. Yeah.
Papam eva shrayed asman hatvaitan atatina tasman narah vayam hantum dhatrashtran sabandhavan swajanam hi katham hatva sukhina shayama madhava.
Synonyms. Who's going to give us the synonyms?
Myself, Mataji. Papam, vices, eva, certainly, ashrayat, must come upon, asman, us, hatva, by killing, etan, all these.
Atatayinaha.
Atatayinaha, aggressors, tasmat, therefore, na, never, arah, deserving, vayam, we, hantum, to kill, Dhritarashtrana, the sons of Dhritarashtra, Sabandhavan, along with friends, Swajanam, kinsmen, he certainly, Katham, how, Hatva, by killing, Sukhinaha, happy, Shama, Syama or Shama?
Syam.
Syam, will we become, Madhava, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune.
Translation: Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain? O Krishna, husband of goddess of fortune, and how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen?
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay.
According to Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors, and I want you to note: a poison giver, one who sets fire to the house, one who attacks with deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, one who occupies another's land, and one who kidnaps a wife. Such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting any ordinary man. But Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and therefore he wanted to deal them in saintliness. This kind of saintliness is not for a Kshatriya. Okay, so who is it for? And that kind of stuff. Will somebody else read it?
Yeah. Although a responsible man in the administration of a state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly. For example, Lord Ram was so saintly that people even now are anxious to live in the kingdom of Lord Ram Rajya. But Lord Ram never showed any cowardice. Ravan was an aggressor against Ram because Ravan kidnapped Ram's wife Sita. But Lord Ram gave him sufficient lessons, unparalleled in the history of the world. Next person can read.
In Arjuna's case, however, one should consider the special type of aggressors, namely his own grandfather, own teacher, friends, sons, grandsons. Because of them, Arjuna thought that he would not take the severe steps necessary against ordinary aggressors. Besides that, saintly persons are advised to forgive. Such injunctions for saintly persons are more important than any political emergency. Arjuna considered that rather than kill his own kinsmen for political reason, it would be better to forgive them on grounds of religion and saintly behavior. Next, Mataji, next person can read.
Yes, Mother. He did not therefore consider such killing profitable simply for the matter of temporary bodily happiness. After all, kingdoms and the pleasures derived therefrom are not permanent. So why should we risk his life? Why should he risk his life and eternal salvation by killing his own kinsmen? Arjuna's addressing of Krishna as Madhava, or the husband of goddess of fortune, is also significant in this connection. He wanted to point out to Krishna that as the husband of goddess of fortune, he should not induce Arjuna to take up the matter which would ultimately bring about misfortune. Krishna, however, never brings misfortune to anyone, to say nothing to his devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, best part of the day, reflection time.
So,
Yes, Mother. Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Mother.
so continuing with the last verse, like this stood out in the last verse for me that he said, Arjuna said that overwhelmed with grief, he said that, O maintainer of the living entities, I am not prepared to fight. Here you go. Like how sometimes we do with our trusted advisors and mentors that, you know what, this is it. I am prepared to do this. And with loving words and their maturity, they can bring us back to the right path. So I was just thinking that in the same way, he's continuing here, where he's going that, and giving compelling reasons.
Very nice. Varshana.
Yes, Mataji. Mataji, here Srila Prabhupada has told these 6 injunctions, 6 kinds of aggressors are there. So many are, Duryodhan did many of those aggressors with Arjuna and his family. Like, you see, one who sets fire to the house, he did that. One who attacks with deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, and then one who occupies another's land, yes, and one who kidnaps a wife, but he did not kidnap, but yes, he really, I mean, insulted her in the this thing. So he was, I mean, there was no harm in killing him, as Srila Prabhupada has correctly mentioned here, explained it to us.
Very nice. Very nice.
That's a really good point. I didn't even connect it like that. So thank you, Ashana Mataji, for sharing.
What else? And I'd like to welcome Pavitra Renu Mataji, who's joined us from Rochester, New York. So glad to have you here, Pavitra Renu Mataji. Please share your reflections we have on what we have read on Facebook as well. Okay, go ahead. Was anybody coming up with some?
I like the way they gave analogy of Lord Ram,
Yeah.
that his kingdom, everyone wants to live in his kingdom. It was kind of Ram Rajya, but when he gave Ravan so many lessons when
Yeah.
Ravan did wrong.
Exactly. And not only to Ravan, actually, he had been given lessons throughout his, throughout his life, right? Even when he was he was young, and then one of the sages comes to Dashrath and says that I want your son because these demons are giving me trouble. And then he goes. So every time you see, if you read the Ramayana, it's like, he's out with his bow and arrow. So, yeah, thinking about bow and arrow, right? And then we think of bow and arrow, we also thinking about Arjuna, who was saying that my bow and arrow is slipping from my hands. Right? And Ramchandra did not do that. We never hear of his bow slipping like that. Yeah, because when justice has to be done, justice has to be done. Okay, very good. What else?
In this purport, this stood out for me that besides the saintly persons that are advised to forgive, and then I was connecting it with Prahlad Maharaj's verse since we were reading Canto 7, because he said that only due to ignorance we identify living entities as enemies and friends, when in truth they are not our friends, they're not cause for our happiness or distress. It is only our karma that plays a part. So that connection really stood out for me.
Very good. And there's a comment from Facebook that Krishna never brings misfortune to anyone. What to say nothing of his devotees. Well, yeah, what to speak of him giving misfortune to his devotees. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. What happened? We lost Suyash Prabhu, huh? Okay. So I wanted to go back to the 6 aggressors. And what were the 6 aggressors that were talked about here?
Those who poison.
Those who poison. Okay.
One who sets fire to the house.
One who sets fire to the house. So, yeah.
Who attacks with deadly weapons.
Okay.
Who kidnaps a wife.
Kidnaps the wife.
Who plunders the riches.
Plunders the riches.
Who occupies another's land.
Occupies another's land. Okay. So these are the 6 aggressors, right? And what should be done with the 6 aggressors?
Can be killed immediately without incurring.
And then no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. So this is something that we need to keep in our mind, right? And because Arjuna is saying, what is Arjuna saying? It's something very interesting, and I'll just bring up the screen over here because I wanted to point that out to you. And that is, look at Arjuna here, and how do I share my screen with you? Here. So here saying, Papa evad ashrayet asman, hatve tan atatayinaha. So he's saying that for these aggressors, we are going to incur sin. Whereas Prabhupada says that you don't incur sin, right? So something has happened to his mind. He's bewildered, and that's why he's thinking like that. Tasman narha vayan hantum dhat rashtan swabandhaman. So he's saying that I will not kill them. Tasman narha vayan hantum, right? So if we kill them, Dhartarashtran. Dhartarashtran means
Sons of
Belonging to
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra.
sons of Dhritarashtra, right? So he has addressed them as sons of Dhritarashtra. So again, he has made that distinction. He's sort of made the same kind of distinction which Dhritarashtra makes in the beginning, right? When he says, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, right? So the same kind of distinction Arjuna is also making over here, the Dhartarashtran, right? So he's saying them. But then you see that in the same breath, what is he saying?
Sabandhavan.
Sabandhavan. So again, he says sons of, and sons of Dhritarashtra along with Sabandhavan. Okay. So there are sons of Dhritarashtra, but then he sees that there could be some other friends also, which could be people, who are there on the Kuru side of the army, but they are really their friends. For example, Shalya was cheated into going into the other side, Arjuna's Mamaji, right? Madri's brother, like that. So Sabandhavan. So anyway, so he's made the distinction between Dhartarashtran and Swabandhavan. But then you see, what does he say in the next line? He says, Swajanam hi katham hatva, sukhina syam madhava. So again, he's addressing them. Okay, he's saying this and that, but then he comes back and he's again addressing them as Swajana. They are ours. So he doesn't make that distinction. Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. He's not doing that after making that subtle distinction between them. But he again comes back and he's saying Swajana. So that is Arjuna. That is, the devotee that he is over there. And then of course he's saying that I don't want to kill them, and we will incur sin. And as you all pointed out, that if you do that, then you don't incur any sin. So before you get about and try to now start killing everybody, anybody who's aggressor and takes your land and all that, we don't do that, right? So we have to understand that depending on your varn and ashram, majorly your varn, is when you will do these kinds of things, like killing. And Prabhupada is emphasizing that he's a Kshatriya, so he's supposed to kill, like that. Brahmanas do not kill. And very rarely will a Brahmana come and behave like a Kshatriya. Can you give me an example of a Brahmana who behaved like a Kshatriya and killed?
Dhritarashtra. No. Mataji, mind is.
Mataji Parshuram.
Parashuram, there you go.
Parshuram.
Right? So Parashuram was the son of Jamdagniya. He was a Brahmana.
Correct.
But then, he goes out to kill the Kshatriyas, like that. But then a Brahmana, if he's going to act as a Kshatriya, can act as a Kshatriya for a very short period of time. Like, okay, here's the agenda, your item, you do that, and then you come back and become the Brahmana once again, right? You can't say that I'm a Brahmana and I've become a Kshatriya forever, like that. Okay? So normally Brahmanas are expected to forgive. And I think one of you brought out the forgiveness thing. I think it was Priti Radhika. So, so Brahmanas are expected to, to just forgive. And so Arjuna right now is behaving like a Brahmana. He's a Kshatriya, he's behaving like a Brahmana, opposite of Parashuram, right? He's saying, I should not do that, I should not do that, and all that kind of stuff, right? It's a very interesting thing that, there was once a conflict between Vashishta and Vishwamitra, right? At that time, Vishwamitra was actually a Kshatriya, he was a king. And he comes there, he comes there to the ashram of Vashishta, and Vashishta takes very good care of him, and he summons the Surabhi cow. So Vashishta had the Surabhi cow, which is a cow which will give you anything that you ask for. So then he summons the Surabhi cow, and the cow produces all kinds of, food items and things like that. And so Vishwamitra is very happy, very pleased, and he says, I want the Surabhi cow. And Vashishta says, I am not going to give it to you. I can give it to you because, he needs the Surabhi cow to be able to perform the yajna. He's there in the forest, he's there doing devotional service there, right? And so, but Vishwamitra is the king, and he has got mighty power. So he comes, he uses power, he takes the Surabhi cow away. And when Surabhi cow is, he's taking it away, then Surabhi turns to, so then at that time, Vashishta doesn't say anything. He just keep quiet, right? He does not even curse them, although he has the mystic powers to be able to do that, because a Brahmana will not do that. right? So then the cow Surbi comes to him and then she asks him that, why are you rejecting me like that? Why are you letting somebody else, take me away? So then Vashishta tells her that, it is not that, you have not done any offense to me. You are very dear to me, right? Because of her only, he's able to do all the yagyas, etc., right? But he says that because I'm a Brahmana, I'm not supposed to get into these kind of fights. See? I cannot fight, especially when a Kshatriya is acting like the way Vishwamitra is acting very, very violently, right? So then the cow Surbi said to him that you just instruct me, right? Because Vashishta would instruct Surbi and say, give me milk, give me fruits, like that. And then she would oblige. So he says that you just instruct me and I will produce an army for you. And then Vashishta says, yes, to defend himself, he can do that. And so she produces the army of soldiers, and then there's a fight that goes on there. And there's a long story there, but the main point that I want to bring here is that if you are a Brahmana, then you are not expected to take aggressive, violent action, right? So a Brahmana should either you forgive, or if you're not able to forgive, then a Brahmana is supposed to go to a Kshatriya. Go to a Kshatriya. As Vishwamitra, and Vashishta, they would do that later on in their lives. If Rakshasas are bothering them, then they will go to Ram, etc. That you please help. So they won't kill, but they will ask that they will take help of Kshatriya. And Kshatriya, like I said, is protection, is supposed to give protection to you. So that can do, So that is what the Dharma Shastras say, that this is the duty for a Brahmana. So,
Mataji,
Arjuna.
Sorry, continue, Mataji.
Go ahead, ask the question.
No, Mataji, Dronacharya was also a Brahmana, but he was acting here as a fighter.
So, so there is this Dharma Shastra. So there is a rule of the Dharma, right? So there's a Dharma Shastra that people are going, and he's, the rule. And Arjuna at this point is actually, split. He doesn't understand the Dharma Shastra completely and clearly. And he's also split between, about what his duty is, what his kul dharma is, what is dharma for the kul, for the family is, right? So Arjuna is kind of like, taking shelter of the Dhamma Shastra and saying that, we should forgive and things like that. But Krishna is going to tell him that you have to go back and do your duty of, pursue the Kshatriya dharma, do the Kshatriya dharma. So people will have to do aggressive actions, especially if they are in a position. For example, if you are a policeman and you are seeing somebody beat an innocent man in front of you, then you're not going to say that, I'm going to stay away from it. That's that man's karma that is happening. No, you are a policeman. It's your duty to arrest. And we see that in Srimad Bhagavatam when Parikshit Maharaj, who's the emperor of the world, is out on, driving through his kingdom, and basically he did that all the time to see if things were in proper order in his kingdom. So he would go there, and there he sees a Shudra dressed in the clothes of a royal person, and he's beating a bull very mercilessly. So this kind of thing is not allowed. You cannot do that to a cow. Bull belongs to the cow family, right? And of course, the Shudra wearing a royal dress was also not allowed at that time. So Parikshit Maharaj immediately takes out his sword to kill that person, like that. So they will take immediate action on that. So we also have got to understand that there are rules and rules and rules that are applied in our lives, that are applicable in our lives. And we just cannot go and say, and I was just talking to somebody yesterday, my teacher, Mrs. Bali, actually yesterday, who's recovering, by the way, very well from her operation. And so I was talking to her, and I was telling her about these rules, etc., and how people can interpret things on their own way and try to bend and twist the rules according to their, their own will and own convenience. Yeah, thank you. And like, you commit murder, and then you say that I didn't do anything because Bhagavad Gita says prakritiya ki amanani guna karmani sarvasha, like that. Ahankara vimudatma kartam iti manite. I don't do anything, so you should not, punish me, like that. So people can quote things out of the Bhagavad Gita and try to twist it like that, but no, there is a rule of the law which is there, which is applicable to you. For example, I cannot say that, if there is a traffic light and it goes red, then I have to stop, like that, right? But sometimes there'll be some people who will be above those laws. So usually higher you go in the hierarchy, some of the rules are not applicable. For example, this rule of traffic light is applicable to those who are driving a vehicle. But if you are in an aeroplane, then you can fly over the red light. Nobody's going to give you a ticket for doing that. So you have to keep these things in our mind. One more thing I wanted to ask you all was that you talked about the five kinds of aggressors, right? So do you see yourself having done this kind of a thing?
Mataji, I mean, many a times I do feel, we have done some aggressor, but I don't know whether it is really aggressing or no. Like you see, this in India, there are too many cockroaches. So you have to take protection, I mean, for yourself, and you have to apply that medication
So which
that
which
they go
aggression?
away.
So which
I
type
mean,
of aggression did you do? What is the aggression that you did to the cockroach?
killing them.
Now, how did you kill them? There were 6 types of aggressors, right?
Poison giver.
Poison giver. Okay. So I'm just saying that, if we start applying these 6 and to ourselves and see that, do we do that or we don't do that, right? So, well, anyway, the poison that you gave to the aggressor, which is cockroach, is in self-defense, right? You self-defense, because if you allow the cockroach to come over there, then you will get diseases, right? So in that, or they will come and mess up with the bhoga that you are preparing for the lordship, right? So you give the poison. Now, I want you to look at these things in a more subtle manner also. Now, here we are talking about the poison, and as you pointed out, that these things were applied by Duryodhan. Duryodhan gave poison, right? He gave poison to whom?
I don't remember.
Bhima, right? He gave it to Bhim. So we are talking about that kind of poison. So we might just think that, okay, I'm scot-free because I never gave poison to anybody. I didn't mix poison in anybody's food when I was cooking. We can always say that, right? But I want you to look in this context at the more subtle aspect also. Because sometimes what we do is that we can poison somebody's mind to suit our own thing, right? Like Manthara poisoned Kekai's mind.
Kekai's mind.
Right? So you can do that kind of a thing as well. Now let's go and look at the second, using deadly weapons. Anybody ever used a deadly weapon?
Not me.
And I see that earlier Vidyavadhu and Achitarade had talked about Parushram. Yeah, so Parushram. Yeah, so we said that we don't use our weapon, right? So we never took out a sword and killed anybody, or you were chopping vegetables and your husband came and you were angry and you threw the knife at him. We never did that, right? But what about your tongue?
That's the biggest weapon, Mataji, but I have never used it against anybody.
So you can use the tongue. And sometimes what happens is that we can use the tongue in the sweetest way and still hurt other people like that. So watch out for that kind of a thing. And sometimes we won't even know that we are using our tongue in such a manner. We might display our moods to different people. Like, somebody you have been talking to every day, and today you're in a bad mood, and that person calls and we are moody. We don't respond to them, with the same kind of enthusiasm that we did every time. So sometimes absence of certain things is even more powerful. And you are still using the tongue to give grief to others by keeping quiet. By not using the tongue, you are doing some aggressive actions like that, right? So like somebody's coming to say,
Yes, Madhuri, many a times people, you see, when somebody is telling something about somebody else, like you see two people, now if keeping quiet there is also what you said is right. You see, keeping
Yeah.
quiet there, that means you are not with the yes, not with the one
Yeah.
person, not with the A, not with the B.
Yeah.
So what are you there? So actually you are agreeing with the person. If you are not saying anything, you are agreeing with the person who is telling you the story of the third person.
Yes. 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 Then how about fire? Have you set houses on fire?
Madhuri, not
Never.
never, never, not not not
Never
even
ever.
in
And
anger,
if I ever
not
did,
with anger.
yes, not with anger. And if I ever did, yeah, maybe my mistake. And of course, if I did, I'm not telling that on Facebook to people. Well, but what I want, and yes, Divyangi, she said that we can by hurt people with our words, which is the tongue. Yeah, tongue. We got two tongues on Facebook, and also remember the tongue is substituted by word, WhatsApp, text messages, emails, hurting emails like that. These are all weapons that you can use to hurt people.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so talking about fire, right? So we say that we never put a fire, but sometimes we can use our tongue as a weapon, as a fire weapon. So we're reading about brahmastra, etc., right? We are reading about brahmastra in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Ashwatthama releases the brahmastra on Arjuna and doesn't know how to retract it. So similarly here also, we can sometimes by cause a rift between people by going and talking, saying one thing to the husband, going and talking something else to the husband, and there's a fire in their house. Aag laga di unke rishte mein, sort of that kind of a
Oh.
thing. We can do that. And also remember that these are brahmastra, that if you don't know how to retract, then don't do it, right? So we are quite guilty, although we might just say that, oh, the Kauravas are bad and this is bad and that is bad and things like that, right? And then kidnapping the wife, kidnapping somebody's wife, that's a gross thing. I don't think we would do that. But also remember that sometimes we are friendly, we have got friends, which are matajis, like friends like that, and your friend is saying that, and you both are gone to the mall, and your friend is saying that, I need to go back home, my husband is expecting me, and you're saying just wait a little bit more, because you don't care whether she goes to the husband or not. You just want your friend to be with you. So it's not kidnapping in that kind of a sense that you lift somebody and take them, like how Krishna kidnapped Rukmani, but it's kind of like, keeping them captive with you and not letting them go back. And some of them will be so submissive, they won't even know how to raise their voice and say, I really have to go, like that. So we can be guilty of all these six. We can become these kind of six type of aggressors. And then grabbing the land, right? Grabbing the land is also one of them there. So grabbing the land, have you ever done that?
Never.
Never, ever, isn't it? Yeah. How about grabbing the remote to the television? How about grabbing that side of the bed? How about grabbing the comforter in the night? So these are all kinds of things that we do, maybe some of them are aggressive, some of them are at a lower level of aggression and things like that, but you never know how other person could feel. A subtle thing like us, that we just take the remote and we surf through the channels of our delight, the ones that we like on the television, that could cause aggression on the other person. They might not say, they might not speak, right? When two people live in the house, this is my side of the vanity, that's your side of the vanity. How did you put your toothbrush on my side? So these are all land grabbing things. So we do all that. So we can be subject to, we can become any of these or all of these six types of aggressors. So watch out for these things on that. Okay. So be in that mood today as we finish our calls, and I'll take one last reflection to wind up the call here. Anything else that comes to your mind? Or are you stunned that you are an aggressor?
Stunned.
Okay, all right. So come on, but the good thing is, aggressor or not aggressor, we have taken to devotional service. We chant the holy names of the Lord, and that is something that will purify us. Okay. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And then I also got a message from Facebook saying by causing misunderstanding, we can also set fire. Yes. Yes. Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bo, Dandat Pranam, Jai Prabhupada.